The left's war on the police and the commie squad strike again. We're going to break it down. Let's get to it. Welcome in, everybody. Beautiful Friday morning. It's exciting. It's Friday. Last work day of the week for everybody. You're going to enjoy an awesome weekend. And plus, you better start enjoying these weekends. Summer's about up, folks. You don't want to be stuck. You don't want to be stuck inside all winter, so you got to go out this weekend, enjoy it. Hopefully you got good weather wherever you're from, and you get to actually enjoy it. Get your coffee ready. We're going to break down some news today. And what's going on in the world of politics, and as we always know, it's always crazy. I mean, we live in the era of Trump. It's always crazy, but it's always entertaining. Now, on Thursday morning, Jeffrey Epstein, and for those of you who don't know who Jeffrey Epstein is, well, I don't know where you've been kind of, I guess, lost away for a long time, but Jeffrey Epstein, he is the extraordinarily wealthy, nearly billionaire, well, pretty much he's made a lot of money, it seems like, through a child sex ring island in one of his personal islands off the coast. So, he's been hiding underage children, pretty much keeping them captured, and he had the Lueda Express, which is his private jet that he would bring big-time people, elites, politicians, Hollywood celebrities, extremely wealthy people, important people, all over the world to this island to have sex with underage children that he pretty much kept locked up. And he also had a few girls locked up in New York. And potentially Florida, I think. Now, Jeffrey Epstein, he was charged, locked up, still awaiting his full sentence, but he's getting charged. Pretty much he's facing life in prison. And rightfully so. The media has tried to paint it as Trump's connections, that Trump somehow is involved, which is not going to be true, but Bill Clinton, we know, is likely to be involved, considering he flew the Lueda Express 27 times, and most of those times was without his Secret Service. And Bill Clinton's already lied. But that's besides the point. Jeffrey Epstein, he's currently in jail waiting his sentence, and he was found on Thursday morning unconscious, well, almost fully unconscious, in his jail cell. Now, they don't know what exactly happened. Why was he like that? Was he... So the investigators, they're looking into it, and pretty much what they have come to some conclusions of what's going on with this situation is, here's some of the investigators' theories. According to NBC New York reported, two sources tell a News 4 that Epstein may have tried to hang himself, while a third source cautioned that the injuries were not serious and questioned if Epstein might be using it as a way to get a transfer. A fourth source said an assault has not been ruled out, and another inmate was questioned. Now, the inmate who was questioned, on potential assault here was Nicholas, I'm going to try to pronounce this last name, but Nicholas Tartaglione. I don't know how to say it. I apologize. Never been accused of being good at saying names, so bear with me. But he's a former police officer. Nicholas is a former police officer who in 2016, he was charged for allegedly killing 4 men and burying their bodies. Now, the lawyer of Nicholas claims that there was no involvement on this assault. he was not to deal with it. Now, it's possible, though, being a former police officer, not very loving of pedophiles. However, so here's the breakdown of what the theories are by the investigators. 1, he tried to kill himself. 2, he didn't really attempt to kill himself, but tried to stage it in an attempt to get transferred to a better environment for him. Or 3, he was seriously beat up by an inmate. That's the theories. And then you always have the conspiracy theory of the Clintons. But here's the thing. I'm going to go ahead and put that one to rest, though, because a lot of people are going with that one, which, hey, I empathize. I get it. I get it. It's always fun because always suspiciously people around the Clintons that know things wind up very suicidal, strangely. However, one thing the Clintons are bad at fulfilling suicide. When somebody who is involved with the Clintons is getting a little suicidal and has that suicide note, we have yet to really find somebody who doesn't finish and go through with the full suicide. That's why I don't think the Clintons are involved. It's probably a pretty far stretch to try to go there. It's likely he was either attempting to... Any of those 3 theories the investigators came up with, I think, are pretty credible and likely. I can see each one of those happening, so I would say as fun as the running with those Clintons theory, I want to run with you there, but I can't. It's unlikely. Let's be honest. The Clintons, man, when you are suicidal around the Clintons, you finish the job. You don't actually end up surviving. But we'll see how that all transpires with Jeffrey Epstein, who he's going to come out and expose when he starts exposing who was involved in this pedophile ring, because he kept pretty detailed notes and likely videos of who he has on tape assaulting these young girls. So we have this rise in the left of this anti-police movement, which is getting absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And it just needs to stop. We're seeing already police being mistreated by Democrats, getting blamed for really anything that comes up with unarmed killings, which ends up being, let's use the most famous situation, which is the Michael Brown, where they tried to claim that he was an unarmed black man that was killed by the police unjustly, which wasn't the case, because as we know, Michael Brown attempted to take the gun from the officer. He was also assaulting him, punching him, and he wasn't really unarmed because he did try to take the police officer's gun, and it was a good shooting. The left will go out there and blame them any chance they get, and now we're seeing this rise of disrespect from the communities of these Democrat-controlled areas. And I'm going to start showing you these clips because this is going to be a new trend that we're going to see, and it's already started. A trend of pouring water on police officers when they're coming to arrest somebody. And it's not just like a couple people pouring water, it's a group. A mass group, which really there's not much we can do about in that case because the police officers aren't getting protected by the mayors of these Democrat-ran cities. And, well, I mean, there's only 2. They're not going to get the backup, and they're outnumbered. And it's getting disgusting. So here's going to be one clip from New York City. New York City, of the police officers just getting poured water on them and It's absolutely disgusting. So here goes the first clip.
No, the fuck they not. Oh my God, they came over here to talk to them that they violated. Yo, they violated them. They violated them. No, they violated them. Oh, they not stopping. Oh my God. Y'all get back here, y'all go. Black. Black. Oh my shit. God, look, they laughing at them.
What they saying?
That was one of the clips in New York, and it was absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Just drenching the officers, and you saw how calm they were. You saw how calm the officers were, so I got to give credit to the officers, because that was a fantastic job by them, knowing they aren't going to be protected by the politicians. They're going to get no protection. If they acted out in any way, they're going to lose their jobs and potentially face any kind of criminal prosecution, because you know they're looking to hang these officers. So, good on the officers for restraining themselves. Bad on the politicians not putting their feet down and their fists down. I mean, I know if I was mayor and I saw that, the iron fist would be coming down. If you don't have the officers back, it's just going to be anarchy. But here goes another clip in New York City where they're drenching these officers and throw the actual bucket at his head. So here goes the second clip. How messed up is that? How messed up is that? And how do they have the balls to just go in and drench these officers with water? How disgusting is that? This is not good. This is not a good start to society. Now, that all happened within the same time frame in New York City, and it went viral, these videos. And yes, me showing it is probably not helping the cause. However, I think it's important to point it out that this is happening so we can stand up to it and demand some action and respect. Because this is going to catch on. This is going to be something that catches on, and it's going to happen nonstop. We see this with the milkshake incident. Democrats, these far leftists, they're milkshaking anyone who's a conservative or supports right-wing causes. They're throwing milkshakes. And it started in Europe. And now it's made its way to the United States. It caught on. It's now a huge thing. Well, this is going to happen now with this. The water getting thrown on these officers. And nothing's going to stop because the Democrat politicians love it, because they love to demonize the officers. They want the officers to have to face potential death while they're on their jobs. They love it. Absolutely love it. And it's disgusting. And guess what? Guess what's happening? Because we're not seeing a crackdown on this. It's catching on. It's catching on. Here's now, after this went viral, there was a new water situation that happened after I've already prepped this episode. I had to add it in this morning. And it happened in Georgia. So now, here is a police officers just getting drenched with squirt guns by a group of like 50 people. And buckets dumped on them. And here goes that clip.
Yeah, get your ass on!
How messed up is this getting? This is what Democrats want. This is exactly what they want. Anarchy. Absolute anarchy. Because guess what? When you're allowing your citizens to mistreat our authorities, our law enforcement like this, for no just cause, nothing outside of the fact that they're doing their jobs, protecting the city, and putting in criminals in prison, and yes, there's a high criminal rate in Democrat-ran cities and states. That's all they're doing. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting, and I can't believe this is allowed to continue to happen. Because when you're at home, when you're a kid, or you're a parent, either one, let's go with the parents because I think most of you probably are that watch or have been either a parent or a grandparent. Or potentially you're at the age where you're about to have a kid. If you're the father, if you're in the household, you're the parents, and all of a sudden, let's say one of the kids are getting to run the household. They don't fear their father. Because let's face it, the one they're supposed to fear is the father figure of the house. When dad comes home and the kids are acting up and mom couldn't put them in their place, the moment that dad walks in the house, they should be crapping themselves. Without the dad even knowing what happened, they should be crapping themselves because they should have absolute fear of the father when it comes to them acting up, and punishment and authority needs to be put into place. Now, if the kid doesn't fear them, it's anarchy in the household. They aren't going to respect the father. If they don't respect the father, they sure in hell ain't going to respect the mother. Because without the father putting them in their place, the mother has no reins. It's going to be the same thing in the cities. Without the police officers, who would be the fathers because they're the muscle, without them, it's going to be anarchy. Absolute anarchy. If they're not crapping themselves when they see police officers after they've been acting up, then what kind of world do we live in? They are there to enforce the law. If you are acting up breaking the law, you should be scared and worried when the officers come. Not for your life, obviously, but you should be worried. They're going to put the fear of God in you by putting them handcuffs on you and dragging your butt to jail to be charged. It's going to be absolute anarchy. And President Trump, he gets this. President Trump has absolutely understands this. And he did not waste very much time to screw around. And he went at it and he called out Bill de Blasio. Bill de Blasio, the communist mayor of New York City, he called him out. In which, by the way, Bill de Blasio is running for president in 2020 as well, and he's an absolute idiot. Bill de Blasio, actually, I'm getting a little sidetracked here, but Bill de Blasio, if some of you don't know this already, he's the famous groundhog killing mayor. On Groundhog's Day, he literally killed a groundhog. He, you know, when they're taking the groundhog out to see the shadow, he dropped the groundhog and it died on camera. This guy's a moron. But anyways, so this famous communist groundhog killing mayor, Bill de Blasio, he is the one who's the mayor of the city of New York, and I don't understand how he keeps getting voted in, but he is. But President Trump calls him out because this is unacceptable what is going on. And President Trump goes out and says, "We love our law enforcement officers all around this great country. What took place in New York City with water being tossed on New York police officers was a total disgrace. It's time for New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio to stand up for those who protect our lives and serve us all so well." And Trump continues, What took place was completely unacceptable and will not be tolerated. Bill de Blasio should act immediately. Trump is right. Now, Mayor Bill de Blasio, he tries to fire back, but he looks like an idiot when he does. So, Bill de Blasio responds with, on Twitter, back to President Trump with his statement, crime's gone down year after year in New York City, and it's not just because you finally left town. And Bill continues, here are the facts. New York City is the safest big city in America, and we got there because our New York police officers and our communities work together to drive crime to all-time lows. Not true. That's real work that we have done that actually protects our officers. Donald Trump doesn't know anything about his hometown. He never lived in a real New York City life, neither have you. He should get off Twitter and stick to what he's good at, watching TV when he claims to be working. So Bill de Blasio spews a bunch of nonsense and pretty much infactual truths because the lowest crime rates were under Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who was a great mayor in New York City and saved the city, actually. Now, Mayor Bill de Blasio was called out by a Republican woman who tried to run for mayor of New York City in 2017, but she didn't get past the primaries, I don't believe. So she points out a few crimes and saying, in the last 2 months, a 15-year-old girl was shot in the thigh while sitting on a bench at a basketball court in Bushwick. June 5th, a 7-year-old Bronx boy was shot in the leg while walking home from school with his grandmother. June 5th, 2 elderly women were shot while sitting in their Queens home. June 7th, an East Harlem woman was shot at the arm of 102nd Street of Madison Avenue. A man was shot and killed while he is walking his dog in Hamilton Heights on June 10th. June 12th, a Bronx woman was shot in the arm walking away working in Williamsburg Road. I'm going to skip a few and go to July, the end of July, and see what we got here. July 24th, 13-year-old girl was shot in the shoulder while sitting on a bench at St. Andrew's Playground in Bedford. Don't know how to say it. Stuyvesant. Tell us again, Mr. Mayor, how safe New York City is under your leadership. And she's absolutely right to call him out because it's absolute BS that he tried to say that. And then the SBA, which is a law enforcement retired individuals group organization, they even called out Bill de Blasio as well, saying, get it straight, Warren William Jr., which is Bill de Blasio. Donald Trump was born in New York City, rebuilt a city in the 70s, 80s, 90s that looked like sorry my language, but this is what he said, like this shit city you are now creating. He lives here when you were supporting socialism and Sandinistas. He was always a patriot. I know I lived it. So Bill de Blasio was called out for this terrible stance he took with the New York Police Department and pretty much chaos running his city. But it doesn't stop there. The disrespect in these large Democrat-ran cities for police officers just continues and continues, and it's just never ending. So the new mayor of Chicago, which she is an absolute disgrace, the new mayor of Chicago, which I thought was going to be impossible to be worse than the previous mayor, but, well, she wants to top it. So, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, she was caught on open mic just being disrespectful to the vice president of the police union of Chicago in a city council meeting when he was coming up to speak about a situation where she fired a bunch of officers. I don't know what that situation is. I haven't researched it, but he was just coming up to discuss it. And she was caught on open mic, didn't realize she was on open mic, and said, oh, he's back again. This guy is a clown. This FOP, which is the union member, is a clown. Which is absolutely disrespectful because this guy, Patrick Murray, he was a police officer for 30 years. He's a 30-year veteran. and she disrespects him on open mic. And here goes that clip.
Commencement stamps. The next speaker is Pat Murray.
No, back again. This is FOP clown.
I'm here to talk about the police board hearing that I went to last Thursday. I knew walking in that those police officers had no chance of getting their jobs back. This is a
Absolutely disgusting. The disrespect she has for police officers. The disrespect. This is a nationwide issue right now, and officers are worried for their lives. They're getting no protection. If they do their jobs, they're getting prosecuted. When they go up and say, hey, you maybe are practicing unfair standards here, they're getting called clowns. And she was asked, Lightfoot was asked, would she apologize to Murray for her statement? And this is where she responded back saying, I think I just did. I think I said I shouldn't have said that out loud. I'm sorry that I said it out loud. That's not an apology. She's saying, I'm sorry, I have no regrets saying the statement. I just wish I wasn't caught making the statement. She wouldn't even apologize for it. And then the union releases a statement on Facebook saying, Mayor Lightfoot's contemptuous remarks is a misguided and dangerous thing to say to a 30-year veteran police officer and FOP representative, particularly at a time when the city is facing such chronic violent crime. It is also telling that the mayor would not even apologize. The Red Noses would not even apologize. The Red Noses, however, belong on the members of the Chicago Police Board, referring to the clown statement, her former agency, for the despicable decision to fire 3 police officers and a sergeant last week for no good reason whatsoever. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Yeah, she probably demands them to protect her. If I was these officers, I would never protect her. Walk the streets without protection is all I would say. Chicago is a wasteland. And it's sad because Chicago is actually a beautiful city. I would argue in the summer, Chicago may be the most beautiful city in the entire United States, if not the world. But these Democrats are running the city to be so radically unsafe that no one will be able to go. Used to be able to go downtown Chicago on the Mile Green Street, whatever you want to call it. Used to be able to go downtown Chicago, walk the streets of it, no worry of crime. But now you actually are getting shot in downtown Chicago, which was a very safe area. And these mayors care more about criminals, thugs, gangbangers than they do about police officers who are trying to protect real citizens who are providing something good for the community. That's your Democrats today, folks. That's your Democrats today, folks. They don't give a damn about you. They give a damn only about themselves and criminals and illegals and terrorists. God forbid if you're a God-fearing American who just wants to wake up every morning, cause no issues, go to work, come home, spend time with your family. Man, are you the worst American ever in their eyes. It needs to stop. Absolutely needs to stop. And I don't know if it will. But Democrats, they don't care. I mean, they're more worried about these racist hoax, as we are about to see here. The Georgia Democrat, Erica Thomas, who claimed that she was told to go back home to her own country. Well, it turns out, as it was a hoax, Eric Sparks, who is the Cuban Democrat anti-Trumper, Democrat supporter, not a politician, who she claimed told her to go back to where she came from. Well, it turns out that he never told her to go back where she came from, but the employee witness who was interviewed by cops, she actually told him to do it. So here is the employee making her statement about what happened.
When I got close there, I heard him call her ignorant. And then she said, if you're not happy, you can leave the store. And then he called her ignorant again. And then she said, you can go back to where you came from. And was pointing him out the door.
And that's what he said to her?
No, she said that to him. You can go back to where you came from to him. He just kept calling her ignorant.
So he didn't say, go back to where you came from?
No, I did not hear that from him at all.
Okay.
I heard that from her.
Okay.
He just kept calling her ignorant.
So there you have, folks. Witness even says she's the one who said it, not him. And then there's also another video that came out that actually establishes and shows you the clip of what happened and Eric Sparks' interview with the officer after the events transpired. So here goes that.
From there, the email, I guess the email WSB TV. And John, the manager here, says there is surveillance that he hasn't viewed yet. If you look at my Facebook, I'm the least racist white man you'll ever know.
Well, I mean...
I'm just saying, I would never use racist terms in any argument even.
I mean...
And she came after me.
I know that one part of the video I saw that apparently you were a couple lines down.
Yeah.
And you checked out and everything, and then you were leaving.
Well, I saw her in the line first, right? In the express lane, right? Because that's the first lane I was going to use, but I only had 3 items.
Right.
Okay? I saw she had a bunch of items. I ignored it for a minute, right? I'll go down in the other empty lanes, check out,
right?
As you can see on the video, right? I walk and talk to the 2 Publix ladies up front.
Right.
Ask them, I go, is there anything you guys can do about this? Blah, blah, blah. She goes, well, corporate policy, we can't say anything, but as a customer, you can't.
Right. Probably
So I go back up there.
Make their own rules.
I go up there.
It looks like you walked out there for a minute.
I was getting ready to.
Yeah.
Okay? And I thought about it for a second, and I turned around and I go back. I'm going to talk to this lady, right? I'll go up to this lady, I go, ma'am, not to be, my exact words at the very beginning, not to be rude. It's a 10 item or less. I don't know if you realize it. Then all of a sudden, she blows up. She cops the attitude right after I said that. She goes, well, I'm 9 months pregnant. I said, man, I don't care if you're pregnant. It doesn't matter. And then she started saying, I don't remember what she said, but she said a few words. I go, well, you're just a lazy I did say that. But did I ever use that other term? Never. I don't know if that video has
What other
sound.
term?
She says that I told her to go back to where she's from.
Oh.
She's making it this Donald Trump thing. I'm anti-Donald Trump.
I mean, I don't...
It doesn't matter, but
politics is not my issue here.
But she's trying to make it... She's trying to make it into something that it's not. For her political agenda.
Okay, did you use any vocabulary, or you did?
The worst I said was, you're nasty, you're a lazy
Okay, and you said that to her in front of her 9-year-old daughter?
Yes, probably.
Okay.
I won't lie.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, what's done is done.
So there you have it. We now know it's a race hoax. Absolutely disgusting. And I do think it's important to note out Eric Sparks, who is anti-Trump, Democrat. He is actually a terrible person himself. And we should note, because I like noting this, not only are Democrat politicians terrible people, but so are their supporters. Have you ever noticed that they like to really demonize Republicans and conservatives, their supporters, as horrible, horrible, terrible racists, that's bigoted, and they say mean things to people? Yeah, I mean, how many truly conservatives do you ever see speak out like this? Don't get me wrong, as I said, I would be not thrilled that I see somebody in these express lanes with a lot of groceries that are far over the limit. But at the same time, you know what I do? I either go to a different checkout and just move on with my day. I don't go and, after I leave, I don't come back to yell at them. That's stupid. That was stupid. You go home. You'd move on with your day. It's irritating, to say the least. I agree. Maybe you say something to the store like, hey, this is irritating. But you move on with your day. So I like, no, he's also a terrible person. Democrats, though, they're so obsessed with attacking law enforcement for a political gain and purpose. And in this hearing yesterday, the Democrats' House hearing had another hearing. They brought in Border Patrol, and they just tried to berate them and tried to make them look terrible and put Trump down. And, well, Senator Doug Collins, no, not for you Chicago Bulls fans out there like me, not the former head coach of the Chicago Bulls, but Congressman Doug Collins of Georgia, he lays in to the Democrats for bringing in the same Border Patrol people week after week after week to do the same thing over. And Doug Collins he started his speech, what he wrote down, his written speech, he just stopped and he went on a rant. He just said, I can't even do this anymore. And it's fantastic. So here's Doug Collins pointing out how disgusting Democrats are for doing this, again, to our law enforcement.
I would now recognize the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Collins, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And here we are again. We've had this same hearing in February. We noted the crisis on the southern border being fueled by loopholes in our immigration laws. Border Patrol Chief Provost testified legislative changes were needed to get the situation under control. In fact, we've heard that over and over and over and over again. But the crisis has gotten worse. In February, the Border Patrol apprehended 66,000 individuals. That number has been above 92,000 every month since, peaking at over 132 apprehensions in May alone. You know, just last week I was horrified and deeply affected when Secretary McClellan told me that there are 3 ongoing cases where a small group of children, 5 to 8, in each case have been used by dozens of different adults to cross our border seeking release in the U.S. And my colleague's claim is we care. Look, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to read this. You know what is dehumanizing? Is continuing to bring the same witnesses or the same people from the same agencies to talk about this over and over and over again. What's dehumanizing is doing that and not doing anything about it. That's what's dehumanizing. It's talking about a problem, and never putting a solution up. I've talked about this almost at every one of these so far, especially in the last few weeks. And look, my Democratic colleagues have ideas. I may disagree with those ideas, but put a bill up. I have a bill, put mine up. Make amendments to it. Do whatever you want to do. That's what Congress is supposed to do. Dehumanizing is this. This is dehumanizing. And also, what a competent and capable majority would do is actually put a bill forward. Instead, we're not a competent and capable majority, undoubtedly using the words of the ranking member of the subcommittee. We're not capable and competent because we're not putting bills forward. We're having bash the president time, bash the administration time. This is all it was. It's all this is. I appreciate you being here to testify. Some of you have been here before. Some of you are replacing the ones who had already testified before. Mr. White, you're back again. Good to see you. This is what bothers me. I can read another opening statement, we can ask questions, and we'll all go through this, and we can talk about how the Trump administration is not competent, not capable. I think that just falls back on us. It falls back on this committee. Why does the majority not put a bill forward? We've heard that it doesn't work. We've heard from both administrations, the Obama administration and the Trump administration, that laws need to be fixed and worked on, but we don't do it. We put together this week, we passed on the floor, we passed out of this committee, a bill that was a Band-Aid to fix a little bit of problem, which everybody ought to be treated humanely and as best they can at the border, and we need to have that. That needs to happen. But we just did it in such a way yesterday that it just applied to everybody and again applied to nobody in a sense. So as we look at this, as we go forward, you know, Madam Chair, I agree with you. You and I have worked on big things before. But what is dehumanizing is this hearing. What is dehumanizing is this hearing where we're going to talk about it again. And people come, and the folks in this audience, I'm glad you're here. We're trying to work on a problem. But don't accept another hearing. Accept some answers. Accept some bills being put forward. Don't be fooled again. If you want to take part in a political positioning paper, then that's what we're doing today. Because we've already heard, no offense to our witnesses, we've heard your statements already before. So I don't know what's going to move us this time that didn't move us last time. This is becoming, unfortunately, a committee of press releases. That's it. Dehumanizing is taking people you say you care about but doing nothing for them. That's dehumanizing. Competent and capable, The last time I understood, Congress should pass legislation. I'll be very slow. Pass bills that matter. Don't have hearings that are simply stunts. I think about these kids being used. I think about the issue with the Flores agreement, with the trafficking victims issue, with the asylum issue. Things that have been talked about by multiple administrations. And even under us, even under the previous Congress. I'll go ahead and say it before anybody else does. Republicans didn't do anything. You know what was really funny? When they had a chance this year to work on the Dreamer bill, the majority leader went to the floor and said, we could have worked on this. Last year we were one signature away from passing a Dreamer bill, getting it off the table and passing it. Then why didn't you bring that bill back to the floor? It was one vote. You had one signature away. Now you're in the majority. You should have been able to pass it and probably would have passed it with 40 or 50 votes. No, but I'll tell everybody watching, you know the reason you didn't? Because we didn't have it political enough. The Dreamer bill, we had to add in everything else. Not that it could get passed, not that we could help the Dreamers, not that we could help the DACA recipients. We wanted a political stunt, and if it wasn't, then I challenge you. Go ask the majority leader why he didn't bring back the bill from last year. I'll tell you why. It's because it was something that would pass, but didn't have everything else political on there. So, Madam Chair, I appreciate it. I couldn't read the rest of this. I mean, this is dehumanizing. This is showing a non-competent, non-capable majority. It's showing a Congress that is willing to listen to problems and not act on problems. So here we go. Popcorn machine's ready. If anybody wants some, send the office over here. The show begins. I yield back.
I love Congressman Doug Collins. He's awesome. Does a great job. Can't wait till Republicans have the majority again in the House so he can actually have some control. It'll be fun to watch. Now, let's move on to the squad. The Commie squad of AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and Ayanna Pressley. However, I'm not really going to talk about Ayanna Pressley because, well, she's the Ringo Starr of the group. No one cares. But we'll hit the other ones. So, as we know, the Commie squad, they're terrible anti-American communists. This whole war started out with a more recent war between Trump and the Commie squad. Is Trump saying in a statement that if you don't like this country, go back, fix your own. And the Commie squad took it as he was referring to them. And there's the media and the Democrats saying it's racist, that he's telling people to go back home. Well, it turns out that Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar have a history of telling people that they want to be deported. That they want others to be deported because they disagree with them politically. In 2015, before Rashida Tlaib became Congresswoman, so roughly 3 years before, Rashida Tlaib, she said, posted on Twitter, posted a article of President Trump, and she wrote, deport, well, you know what, pardon my language, I'm just going to say the language because this is what they wrote, and I want everyone to hear what they wrote. Rashida Tlaib said, deport this asshole, referring to Trump. Yeah, that's about 4 years before Trump said anything about, and didn't name specifically who. Yeah. Then we have Ilhan Omar, who in 2012, October 4th, 2012, and this is before she was even a congresswoman in the state of Minnesota. She wasn't even a congresswoman in the state of Minnesota yet. And she was in a Twitter spat with people, and she told the four people it looks like, or 3 or 4, I don't know. But she tells them, we are citizens and can't be deported. Why don't we deport you to wherever you came from? So she tells 4 people she disagrees with politically. Why don't we deport you from where you came from? And the media, they won't talk about this. I mean, these are, it's up there, it's on their Twitter still. They have yet to delete them. Now, I took photo shots, screenshots, because I'm not going to let them live it down. I'm not dumb. They'll silently delete it one day. But The media, they don't even talk about that. Trump's a racist, but man, can they say it and it's okay. It's okay. They say it way before, but it's okay. But let's just go ahead and talk about other issues to show how radical these people are. Ilhan Omar, we'll start with her. Ilhan Omar. She posts on Twitter calling out for the illegals crossing our border to be able to get not only free health care, but free abortions. So she posts an article from Vox, V-O-X, not Fox News, but V-O-X, Vox, far left-wing news source. Posts that, and it's about reproduction rights, meaning abortion, for illegal immigrants. And it's about pretty much giving it to them for free on taxpayer dime. And here is Ilhan Omar's statement on that. She posts on Twitter with that article with the statement saying, no one should fear receiving medical care because they are undocumented. We must ensure that all people in our country have access to reproductive health care. Again, as we know, reproductive health care means abortion. That's all the left means with it. And she also is claiming people in our country. So these illegals crossing in illegally are people in our country? No, they don't belong here. But we got to pay, our taxpayers have to pay for their abortion so they can have it for free. Completely radical and irrational to come to that conclusion. And this is not going to play well with most of America. They're not going to be fond of this statement. And Ilhan Omar, a new video comes out to show how radical she really is. So a new video comes out, and it's from 2018 when she appears on Al Jazeera, which Al Jazeera Media. So before I get into it, Al Jazeera Media, they are a Carter news organization that's to spread propaganda for the Middle East. They're a fake news source. Pretty much is they're pro-terrorist, push Islam propaganda, anti-Western propaganda through the world, in particular in the United States. Al Jazeera, and Carter, for those of you who don't know, Carter is a country in the Middle East. Very wealthy, rich country. I mean, there it's for only the elites wealthy and everyone else is super poor. But extreme wealth by the wealth, because it's oil. But they support terrorists and push pretty disgusting things. And this is Ilhan Omar in 2018 going on this news organization, which is pretty disgusting that she would, but kind of goes with her pro-terrorist stances. Ilhan Omar says in this, no, that Americans shouldn't fear Islam and terrorists, but we should fear white man. We should fear the white man. So I'm going to play that clip, and I'll break down what she says and the false claims with it.
A lot of conservatives in particular would say that the rise in Islamophobia is a result not of hate, but of fear, a legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism, whether it's Fort Hood or San Bernardino or the recent truck attack in New York. What do you say to them?
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. And so if fear was the driving force of policies to keep America safe, Americans safe inside of this country, we should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
We should fear white man, a country that has a roughly, I think it's 67% population of white people. We should fear white man. If you fear white man and you live in the United States that is populated by 67% white people, why the hell do you live here then? And now this is where it's also a joke that she makes a statement is she says that white man creates the most, kills the most. That's absolutely false. Absolutely false. Insanely false. There is no statistical backing to that claim. However, here are the statistical backings to what actually transpires according to the FBI. Not white man, but white people in general. White people in general are 67% of the population. And you know what percentage of murders white people, not even just men, I'm including women, I'm giving you even extra. The percentage of murders in the United States by white people is only 45%, when we're 67% of the population. So actually white people are underperforming in the murder rate. As we should, at minimum, just to be going even with everybody, killing at about 67%. However, the highest murder rate, who actually produces the most murder, are black people. Now, I'm not saying this to blame black people or try to put any negatives, like they are responsible for this, because I don't blame anyone individually for anything that stats show. But since she brought it up, we're going to talk stats. 50% of black people, 50% of the murders are caused by black people, while 46% of the murders are caused by white people. Black people only are representative of 13% of the population. White people are represent 67% of the population. That means black people are killing far more. Well overdoing their portion of the population. Ratio-wise, not good. We're underperforming, they're overperforming. Now, I'm not trying to say, we have a black people murdering problem. Because really, homicide's kind of low in the United States. It's not really that high. Unless in Chicago, then it's high. But outside of that, to make that claim, it's just false. And we know Politico, Snopes, and all those left-wing fact-checkers will never fact-check that. They'll say, yep, white people are the devil, and hooray for taxes. And this isn't the first time Ilhan Omar goes and says derogatory things about white people. She, not only should you fear white man, but this is not a country for white people either. So here's Ilhan Omar making that statement about, I think it was 6, 7, 8 months ago. I can't remember, but something like that. Here it goes.
This is not going to be the country of white people. This is not going to be the country of the few. This is the country of the many.
She is a terrible, disgusting racist. And she just doesn't stop. Ilhan Omar clearly hates white people. So we should fear white man, and this is not a country for white people. Messed up and disgusting rhetoric. Now, let's go ahead and play the most famous clip of Ilhan Omar, where she praises Al-Qaeda and terrorists. Al-Qaeda, where she says it with pride. And then no one says America with pride. So here's Ilhan Omar making that statement. So white man we should fear white man, but Al-Qaeda, they're great. So here it goes.
I remember when I was in college, I took a terrorism class, and
is that a such thing?
Yeah, there was.
So there is a lab for that?
There was a class that you.
Do you go to a lab?
No,
you go out a field trip.
We learned the ideology of.
I'm glad you do that.
And so it was the thing that was interesting in the class was every time the professor said Al-Qaeda, he sort of like his shoulders went up, and
he's in command here.
Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah.
He's an expert.
And it was,
What's his name? What put his name on the air?
We are not saying his name.
Yeah.
You probably get to see him on CNN.
Yeah, of course. I love those guys.
But but it is that you don't say America with an intensity. You don't say England with an intensity. You know, you don't say the army with an intensity.
Carter.
But you say these names because you want that word to carry weight. You want it to leave something with.
It has a cultural meaning, not just
exactly.
meaning.
So it's said with a deeper voice. So yes, it is.
But when a non-white commit a violence,
Al-Qaeda. How disgusting. So Al-Qaeda's great, white man evil. This is a congresswoman, people. And let's not forget, I'm not going to play the clip, but she also said some people did something referring to the 9/11 attack. Terrible racist bigot that should not be allowed in Congress, let alone she married her brother, broke tax fraud, and snuck in the country illegally by likely, her last name is Elmi, not Omar, because things are starting to come out, and it looks like she snuck in illegally with the Omar family. But anyways, that's beside the point and not part of the episode today. Rashida Tlaib, though, the other member of the Commie Squad, she is out there spewing that claiming the BDS movement, which is the Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions, which is to boycott Israel because she hates Jews, and it's pretty much the destruction because of the BDS movement is literally created for the destruction of Israel to get rid of the Jewish country out of the Middle East. She supports that movement and is calling for the removal of the bill of the anti-BDS movement, which is to remove, the government can't have BDS on Israel. And Rashida Tlaib compares boycotting Israel to the same as boycotting Nazi Germany. So here it goes.
As the granddaughter of Palestinian grandmother, my city, who yearns to experience equality, human dignity, and freedom, I stand before you, the daughter of Palestinian immigrants, parents who experience being stripped of their human rights, the right to freedom of travel, equal treatment. So I can't stand by and watch this attack on our freedom of speech and the right to boycott the racist policies of the government and the state of Israel. I love our country's freedom of speech, Madam Speaker. Dissent is how we nurture democracy and grow to be better and more humane and just. And this is why I oppose Resolution 243. All Americans have a right, a constitutional right, guaranteed by the First Amendment to freedom of speech, to petition their government and to participate in boycotts. Speech in pursuit of civil and human rights at home and abroad is protected by our First Amendment. That is one reason why our First Amendment is so powerful. With a few exceptions, the government is simply not allowed to discriminate against speech based on its viewpoint or its speaker. The right to boycott is deeply rooted in the fabric of our country. What was the Boston Tea Party but a boycott? Where would we be now without the boycott led by civil rights activists in the 1950s and 60s, like the Montgomery bus boycott and the United Farm Workers grape boycott? Some of this country's most important advances in racial equality and equity and workers' rights has been achieved through collective action protected by our Constitution. Americans of conscience have long and proud history of participating in boycotts, specifically to advocate for human rights abroad. Americans boycotted Nazi Germany in response to dehumanization, imprisonment, and genocide of Jewish people. In the 1980s, many of us in this very body boycotted South African goods in the fight against apartheid. Our right to free speech is being threatened with this resolution. It sets a dangerous precedent because it attempts to delegitimize a certain people's political speech and to send a message that our government can and will take action against speech it doesn't like. Madam Speaker, the Supreme Court has time and time again recognized that expressive conduct is protected by the Constitution. From burning a flag to baking a cake, efforts to restrict and target that protected speech run the risk of eroding the civil rights that form the foundation of our democracy. All Americans have the right to participate in boycotts, and I oppose all legislative efforts that target speech. I urge Congress, state governments, and civil rights leaders from all communities to preserve our Constitution, preserve our Bill of Rights, and preserve the First Amendment's guarantee of freedom of speech by opposing H.Res. 246 and the anti-boycott efforts wherever they rise. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
So she is absolutely disgusting and a terrible person, and the Democrats really need to keep going down this road. Good job, Democrats. You're going to bring us back to another election victory because this is clear anti-Semitism, and Jewish people aren't going to stand with it. She doesn't stop there, though. So forget the BDS movement for now. Let's move on to another topic that Rashid Tlaib is getting really radical with. And I told you guys many times that I've mocked it, the $15 an hour minimum wage that Democrats want to push. I said, well, why are we going to stop at 15? Why not go to 100? Why not go to 100,000 an hour? Why not just get it? If government can just start handing out money, fix inequality instantly. Rashid Tlaib is now calling for not only a $15 an hour minimum wage, but a $20 an hour minimum wage. And here goes that clip when she's giving her speech to a union group.
But $2.13 as a tipped employees take $2.13 per hour federally. Some states, of course, here in Michigan, it's over $3.50 or so. But think about that for 1 minute. And people cannot live on those kinds of wages. And we can't allow people to be living off of tips, relying on tipped wages. It's just not, or whatever they call it, tipped income, because it's just not enough to support our families. But I also want to always tell a story because big fights like this one, $15. By the way, when we started it, it should have been $15. Now I think it should be $20. Make sure America Rising hears that. It should be $20. No, it should be $20 an hour, $18 to $20 an hour at this point of everything, all the costs. And so they say, oh, this is going to raise the cost. But I can tell you, milk has gone up. Eggs has gone up. Everything has gone up. The cost of food has gone up. The cost of a lot of things that we need has gone up already.
$20 an hour. $20 an hour. That's what you want. This is how stupid the Democrats are. People aren't going to agree with this. They're not going to agree with it. They realize why is McBurger Flipper making $20 an hour the same as me, who's probably some guy working in a factory? Which $20 an hour is a pretty good living. I'm not trying to bash it. $20 an hour, and that's not bad living. Good for that. But if you bring minimum wage to $20 an hour, people in a factory aren't going to be willing to take $20 an hour. And McDonald's is not going to be willing to pay their employees $20 an hour. Small businesses not going to be willing. The factory workers are going to demand far more money. They're going to demand at minimum probably $35, $40 an hour. Because what happens when you raise these prices, this minimum wage to 20? Inflation rises. So all that thing she complained that got more expensive, it will get more expensive. So people need more money. Why? Because minimum wage is actually zero. So it does not matter to where you raise minimum wage. Minimum wage is always going to be zero in the economy. It can be $1, it can be $100. It can be zero, it could be $1 million. It's still zero. It's stupid. That's what economists all say. Basic economics, but, Democrats, they don't want to listen to that stuff. Now, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she goes out there and she is now advocating, well, not now because she has been this whole time, but just as we need open borders. And here goes that clip.
I think migration to me is liberation. It's the ability to move and be. It's the freedom to be, really, is what we're talking about. And I think that all people should be free to be here and in our communities. Because I think that when you start
Okay, apparently that's not working. So, I'll just explain. She said that pretty much is the people have the right to be in this country free. So she was saying that people should be able to come in here free and not be illegally charged. I apologize. Clearly there was technical difficulties with that video. But we'll move on to another thing that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez went on and spewed on conspiracy theories. So, and 2 officers were fired in Louisiana because a statement saying Alexandria Ocasio needs a round, and I don't mean the kind that she used to serve. So he was making this statement because she was saying military makes too much money. The military makes too much money. And he was supposed to be a former military guy and saying that the guy who liked the statement. Both were police officers, and they got fired because that was deemed a threat. Okay, fair enough. I can understand you can't really go say that as a police officer. You do have a certain standard you have to live to. But here's where it gets crazy. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez goes on Twitter and makes a statement claiming that President Trump secretly is trying to have her assassinated. So here it is. This is what AOC says about this. This is Trump's goal when he uses targeted language and threatens elected officials who don't agree with his political agenda. It's authoritarian behavior. The president is sowing violence. He's creating an environment where people can get hurt, and he claims plausible deniability. So she's saying that because he's making this rhetoric when police officers get angry and say they want her to be shot, he is secretly doing that so she'll get shot, but have deniability. Absolutely insane, and she has lost her mind. But, I mean, she probably lost her mind quite some time ago. AOC also seems to forget that a guy literally just 2 weeks ago tried to shoot up and set on fire and blow up an ICE facility based on the rhetoric she has used. And he's shot at police officers. That's your Commie squad. The Commie squad is actually, I forgot who it was. I mean, I've been making this statement, so it's quite funny, but it was like Kennedy. I've been calling them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse of the Democrats for quite some time. But John Kennedy goes on and makes that statement, Congress senator, and he claims they are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse of the Democrat Party because they are destroying the Democrat Party, which they are. And President Trump tweets out even to Ilhan Omar, in 2016, I almost won Minnesota. In 2020, because of America-hating, anti-Semite Representative Ilhan Omar, and the fact that Minnesota is having its best economic year ever, I will win the state. We are going to be a nightmare to the president. That's quoting Ilhan Omar. She says, no, AOC plus 3 are a nightmare for America. And that's what Trump responds back. President Trump is right. Because of these, he and the Republican Party, because of these Commie 4 squad, they have put themselves front and center. Trump is likely to win president in 2020. Republicans will win the Senate in 2020. And I personally believe we will take back the House as well. They have absolutely destroyed the party, and that's why Trump keeps putting them in front and center, because he's trying to make them the face, and they're radical, and they're not going to sit well with, in particular, middle America. Those are radical statements I just showed you. They aren't going to sit well. But anyways, that is all I have for today. So we'll see you next week. And I hope you all have a great weekend. Go enjoy this. If you're in Texas, in particular, the Houston area, greater Houston area, it's almost a perfect day for a 3rd straight day in a row. Go outside, enjoy it, because we do have next week coming and it's going to be rainy. But for us of America, if you have good days, go enjoy it. If you don't, just enjoy your weekend anyways. Spend time with family or go read a good book. Either way, have a great weekend. See you next week.